Mali has declared 3 days of national mourning after more than 60 people were killed in attacks by Islamist militants. Military authorities say 64 people were killed in 2 separate attacks in the northeast of the country. A boat on the Niger River and a military camp at Bamba were targeted. 50 militants are also thought to have been killed. With more on this, BBC World Service Africa editor Richard Hamilton joins us. Richard, what more can you tell us about this attack and the mounting problem?
Yeah, so the first attack was on a passenger boat on the River Niger near Gao, and Islamist militants fired 3 rockets at the engine of this passenger boat, and around 50 civilians were killed. And then after that, there was an attack on a military base also near Gao at a place called Bamba. It's near the river as well. And 15 Malian soldiers were killed. And then the Malian army said that they retaliated and killed 50 Islamist militants. But we've not had any independent verification of that claim.
But this has been a mounting problem, hasn't it, since the beginning of the year?
Definitely, and even within the last few minutes, we're getting breaking news of another attack. Two vans driven into a military army base in northern Mali, and with a believed suicide attack. And as you say, the security situation is getting much worse. And we've seen these coups in West Africa, which have been prompted by the insecurity. So we've had military regimes taking over in Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali, and they were in response to the perceived lack of progress against the Islamists by the United Nations and France. So they have been told to leave, but that's just going to make things worse. And these military leaders, the putschists, are relying on Wagner and their mercenaries to fight the Islamists. But the evidence is that Wagner are committing atrocities and human rights abuses on the civilian population in the countryside in places like northern Mali, and that's only radicalizing people and encouraging them to join these Islamist groups which are affiliated to Islamic State and Al-Qaeda.
You mentioned the departure of peacekeeping forces there in Mali. And then an upsurge in the violence in response to that. Why is it that the Mali, their own forces, the country's forces, are not able to combat that?
They just don't have the resources. These countries are very poor. They had the support of France, but there's been a lot of anti-French rhetoric. A lot of young people didn't like the colonial legacy, so there's been they basically told the French and the United Nations to pack up their bags, and there's a pivot towards Russia, but Russia is not able to perhaps provide enough military assistance as well. So there are Soviet air power being supplied, like helicopters and drones and planes. But the evidence is that the mercenaries on the ground, in Mali there's some 1,500 mercenaries. That doesn't compare to the 13,000 United Nations troops. So simply not enough firepower to repel the Islamists.